Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Steve Taplin, Chief Product Officer at Lendscape. Thanks for joining me, Steve.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Nah, it's great to have you on the program. I know it's a little trickier when we're trying to deal with this time zone, me being on Pacific time and you being in the UK. But glad we can make it work, and excited to hear more about you and your career and more about Lendscape, Steve.
Yeah, delighted to be here. So yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess we'll just kind of jump right in. For those people who haven't met you yet, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date in equipment finance?
Sure. So Steve Taplin, Chief Product Officer at Lendscape, but started my equipment finance career in 1997 when I joined Alpha Financial Software. I think then it was called CHP Consulting, and I learned all about the asset finance industry at that time, and through my time there, and I also obviously learned everything there is about technology provision to the equipment finance industry. I performed all of the roles that you have within a software supplier. So I was a developer, an analyst, eventually project managed deliveries, but finally settled in sales, and I ran the sales team there from 2005 onwards till I left in 2019. I left as a managing director there and joined Lendscape in the same year.
So, I guess we'll just kind of go right into Lendscape, if you don't mind. And then I'm going to ask kind of like the transition from, Alpha to Lendscape, if you don't mind. But do you mind just kind of introducing Lendscape? How long has the company been around? Products, markets served?
Yeah, sure. So Lendscape has been around many decades and is a market leader in serving the receivables finance sector. So that's working capital products like asset-based lending, factoring, invoice discounting, and it's got many blue chip customer names such as BNP Paribas, Societe Generale, HSBC, Siemens Financial Services, etc. And we also have customers in the US such as CIBC, US Bank, Caterpillar Financial, and so it really does have a preeminent place in the receivables market, but it wanted to make the transition to equipment finance. At the same time, I'd left Alpha with a number of colleagues, and we felt that there was an opportunity in the mid-market to better serve equipment finance providers with technology. So very fortunately, Lendscape agreed and took us on, and we built the equipment finance practice within Lendscape, and now have a number of customers using our platform.
Perfect. And then from a market served perspective, I know you mentioned the UK and the US, but I believe you guys are all over a global provider.
Yeah, so we've got around 100 customers or so on the receivables side, serving 40 different global markets, and offices obviously headquartered in the UK, but we've got offices in Sydney, Australia, Singapore, South Africa, as well as San Luis Obispo in California.
Just an easy flight to everything, I guess. Well, thank you for sharing that, Steve. And then from a number of employees, what's your headcount at?
Yeah, so we've got a little over 200 employees, mostly out of the UK, but we do have folks in each of those office locations also. And that gives us around the sun support. We've got particularly got a good headcount in Australia and in South Africa, and that gives us good global time zone coverage for our customers.
I was going to say, is it almost 24/7 support if you guys are pretty much everywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, some of those names that I mentioned earlier require it, so that's the deal.
Completely fair. As someone who worked for a smaller software, organization, it's like, nope, it's like 8 to 6. That's what you get if you want the other stuff. Like anything can be done with we want the premium support, and of course you have to figure that out, but it's a lot easier I'm sure it's easier from a support perspective, but almost a little bit more difficult. We'll get into that later from a managing a global organization.
I think even the 24/7 supporting software companies, we all start with the business hours, and but then needs must.
It's like, yeah, it's not going to work. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for discussing that. I guess educating me on where you guys are from. So going from what was Alpha from an employee count perspective when you left, and then when you came to Lendscape.
Yeah, so I think when I left, Alpha is around 330,
Okay.
and
Okay.
when I joined Lendscape, it was around 130. So a much smaller headcount there. I mean, obviously we've grown the equipment finance practice that's part of the purpose of me joining, but also the company has grown. I was given twin roles. One was to help introduce that equipment finance practice, but the other one was to help Lendscape grow, perhaps in the same way that they'd seen from across the road Alpha grow in that time period. So me and my colleagues, particularly Mike Mays, who's the Chief Operating Officer at Lendscape, we together helped introduce perhaps more of a growth mindset to the organization, and help the company grow to around 2.5, 3 times its enterprise value. That of course attracts interest, and we were invested by Beaumark Capital in 2023, so we're now backed by those guys, and it's with their support that we're making such efforts in the US.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and that's one thing. I mean, August. What am I? I'm 1 week away, or maybe 6 weeks, 6 days away from my 20th year in equipment finance. But granted, it's like a one-trick pony here in North America. I've had clients in the U.S. and Canada, so I haven't had any in the U.K. yet. But you mentioned something there where it's like you were at Alpha for several years, and then your book kind of naturally comes with you. I mean, it's not just a layup, but at least you have those introductions, and good reputation precedes you and everything else. So that's fantastic, Steve.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the things that that I brought was the fact that I'd introduced the Alpha platform to the US market as a leader of the sales team there. So already very familiar with the North American market, having introduced it to a number of equipment finance and auto firms there. And but we also brought in a colleague from FIS, David Woodruff, who did this exactly the same thing with FIS. So we've got good experience in house, and a number of the team that we've built on our implementation side, they're all from some very familiar names within the software provider space, all with experience of North American market. So it's all part of the plan.
It's fantastic. And just from a statistics perspective, like as far as EF growing or like ABL or factoring growing, I've seen the ABL and factoring growing at a way more significant rate than EF.
Yeah, well, pleasingly, and I can say this because I have a company-wide remit, not just an equipment finance remit, but all markets seem to be growing. They're all experiencing structural growth, and there's good demand across all the product lines.
And one more question on the Alpha versus Lendscape. What's it? Do you find it easier when you're more focused on not having an end-to-end and more specifically focused on what you're doing now? Is that an easier sell or is it harder?
Well, I think every sale is different because you're presented with normally a reasonably unique set of challenges with every engagement. But I think yeah, at the moment we're focused on the back office only, and so the portfolio management side of things. And if folks need an onboarding capability, then we work with partners in order to deliver that joint capability. And some people are looking for one throat to choke or one vendor solution, but it's my opinion and my experience that there is no single vendor that does a good job of both. They tend to have started out life specializing on one end or the other, and then have kind of either backed into back office or put a front end on the onboarding side of things, and invariably the overall solution suffers because of it. We want to be excellent at what we do, and I lean on my existing customers of the equipment finance platform to confirm or otherwise on that count.
That's a great point. And I think in probably what 2008, I think we almost had one of our first end to ends in the, in North America. And then it was, oh my God, we haven't had an end to end. And
Mm.
to your exact point there, it's like it doesn't need to be one single. Yes, from a reporting perspective, it's nice, but you can't have one. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think the end to end platforms are kind of missing because it's like you have Salesforce, you have Dynamics, and they just continue to gobble up market share and functionality. So
Yeah,
say
I
100%.
also think, I mean, say 15 years ago, it may have been a slightly more difficult question to answer because I think the integration capability was a lot harder back then.
Sure.
It wasn't clear what protocols one was going to use in order to join these systems together. But fast forward to today, it's very clear how we join these systems together. It's very straightforward, and it means that you don't have to suffer poor parts of the system because you've had to make an accommodation. Now you can choose best of breed, join them together easily. And as you say, I mean, one of the challenges on the front end on onboarding is that this is where equipment finance companies differentiate themselves. This is how they bring their value proposition to market. Not that back office is commoditized, but it just needs to be robust. It needs to work, and it needs to be as efficient as possible. But the great thing about platforms like Salesforce and Dynamics is that you can customize the screens, you can customize the workflow, you can customize the data structures. They can call out to different services in order to give you access the various third parties you want to join together to deliver your value proposition. And that's very challenging for a dedicated equipment finance software provider to live up to that kind of demand across all the variety in the market.
No, nail on the head, man. And one more question on Lendscape. So are you guys full back to the office or hybrid? I guess is it different based on the different countries that people are in?
Yeah, I think like most organizations, we're obviously all in office with this notion of remote working capability before COVID, and then everything changed. We're now hybrid working, so we do mandate some time in the office and encourage teams to collectively come in together in the office because there is that opportunity to be a better team, to casual learning, etc., that you get from being together. But it's not all in.
And then are you finding from a culture perspective, being a global provider, like is that a challenge or just an opportunity?
Both. Yeah. I mean,
It's a weird question, I know. Sorry.
I mean, you'll know yourself, Jesse. Your background is that, I was over 2 decades at Alpha, building an equipment finance system that was very mature, but it's never done. Every single new customer you speak to, there are seemingly new requirements to address, and I think there's a story and an opinion I have now about the market and about that, because are there really a million different ways to do things, or are we overcomplicating things? That's perhaps a longer conversation, but that is the nature of the market at the moment. And so, yeah, there's always more to be done. And if you're going international, then you're just multiplying that by a whole bunch of additional regulations and market norms.
I just think of like different currencies, different God, it's like different language requirements, just different everything. And it's just like, wow, okay.
Yeah, well, fortunately, modern text helps you with some of that, but not all of it.
Sure. Yeah. And we'll, I guess we can just jump right into that right now. I'm just going to go a little off script if you don't mind. So I guess as you bring on clients, it's from a software perspective, I think we try to make everything as standard as possible. So we're not having multiple different lines of code, then easier to upgrade, just easier everything. But we know that's not the case, right? You understand that we have to customize some things to make a client happy, and we build add technology to platforms to make it better for everybody. I guess that the mindset of does this have to be custom? Do we take it standard? Like as a business leader, I know it's a tricky question, but it's a interesting kind of line you have to walk sometimes, Steve.
Yeah, it's a challenge in that typically the first engagement you have with any new logo is that they come and dump a whole bunch of requirements on you, and there's no conversation about it. You've now got to basically, self-score yourself against these requirements, but there's no opportunity to go and say, well, what's behind these requirements? What was the problem that led to you having these requirements? Or are they simply a statement of your current as is functionality and processes? And that really does limit the ability of vendors not just to show their capabilities, but also as a software platform, but also as an advisor, as a partner to help you deliver the best next generation of an iteration of your business. So that's always very challenging. So we have to navigate that. But one thing we do have to do is look at these requirements and think, well, if it is a gap, and I do have to think about building it, if I build that, will that be in the best interest of all of my other customers? Or is it only going to be of value to you? And if it's only of value to you, can we please at least have a conversation about it to understand what's behind it, to understand if we're really solving a problem that you need solving with this requirement? Because if nobody else wants it, it's either the secret sauce that makes you so special, in which case I get it, and you probably don't want that in everybody else's, for everyone else's access. But more than likely, it's probably indicative of the fact that it's probably not wholly required. But I recognize that we still have to give a solution to the customer, so we still have to have alternatives for that requirement if we don't want to put it into the product. Because ideally, everything that I put into the product is of value to everyone, or at least as many of the users of the product as possible. And then everyone gets value from everything that we do. And I think one of the challenges in the software space at the moment is that we all run around doing fixing the gaps that we identified in the RFP that the customer's more than willing to pay for, but it just starts to drain the system in capabilities that nobody wants other than the originating customer, and makes the system brittle over time and challenging to maintain and all those things.
Very, very well said. And as a consultant, there's a lot of times that we sit there and we hear things and it's like, wait, what? Like, it's been 20 years of me doing this. I've never seen that before. And you really have to ask that question and push back, and politely, right? Where you're just like, is that truly a need? Like, how many times of your $1 billion portfolio, how many deals have you ever done like that? Well, and then it's always when they say well, you're just like, okay, let's get to the root cause of this. And I don't care if it was something you did 5 years ago. Like, let's have a conversation on it. And I think people, if you just approach it the right way, they're going to understand. Because otherwise, it's like you said, you open up a can of worms.
Yeah, I mean, you said approaching it politely, but I would say the important thing is without any arrogance, because it's not my business, it's their business. They know their business better than I do, and there could very well be fundamental and great reasons why this is mission critical. So, but the key thing is, can we have a conversation so we can understand it? And it may be that the solution, which is my job, there may be a better one than the requirement. The problem with requirements is it doesn't empower me to solve anything for you. It tells me what to do. And that's one of the challenges writ large then, as I bring that back through my organization. How can I have an empowered workforce if they're just being told what to do? And we're all in this game because we love solving problems. So tell me what problem you're trying to solve.
Absolutely. And it's up to it's not easy for our professional services people to have that conversation either, because we all want to make people happy.
Yeah.
But it's also the ramifications where if you don't have that conversation, then it just keeps festering and growing, and then it's just not a great outcome for anyone. And that's just me speaking about my experience in software for 15 years.
Yeah. Well, like you say, I mean, it's those conversations have got to be approached in the right way. But if they are done in
Yeah.
the right way, they'll be delighted at the end of it because we've all collectively partnered towards a far better outcome.
Same page, same page. So I'm going to talk about like kind of like have a technology discussion. So what what trends are you seeing out there right now, Steve?
Well, I mean, if you'd have asked me what, a couple of years ago, I might have come up with a list of these niche technology trends that
Sure.
we all thought were critical. But I mean, it's very hard to ignore AI and probably added onto that intelligent automation, particularly as a back office system provider where we're looking to do things smarter. Um, I mean, our purpose is to enable smarter lending. Now that's a couple of year-old phrase, but it's aging well, because now with the rise and focus of AI, then it's a trend that's washing over everything. And I don't just see it as whilst it's a technology trend, it's not a technology trend in itself because it's permeating all of our lives. I mean, when your mom's telling you what's what she did on ChatGPT and how cool it was, you realize that
And
it transcends the technology
I'm not
space.
I'm not introducing my mom to that. Trust me. There's enough things I introduced her to, and like all of a sudden my phone rings. I'm like, what? Like what? I need? No, no.
Yeah,
I see
I've,
it though.
I've got friends seeking their relationship advice from ChatGPT now, and it's yeah, I mean it seems to permeate everything that we do.
I think the biggest challenge that I've seen with and we'll move on to how AI is helping out the software, but the biggest challenge I see with like a chat GPT is you sit there and you tell it all the great things that you do, right? You don't sit there and tell it any of the challenging. None of us are perfect, right? So it just constantly just tells you how great you are over and over and over again. You're not the problem, it's somebody else's problem. It's like, what?
I think much like you talked about approaching a customer in a certain way, I think you can approach it with your challenges in a certain way where you don't lose your ego over it, and you just put like all these things as you're prompting it, you're saying, "I am the chief product officer of a business to business SaaS software provider, experiencing the following challenges, and then get your advice that way."
I actually cheat a little bit and I throw some of these like podcasts in there so it understands my personality, over 200 plus of these. So it kind of understands.
And what did it say about you?
Oh no, I mean it's just it allows me when I, like you say, when you prompt or you just like when like I had something yesterday that I was working on, I said this is perfect. Like as far as like introducing kind of like consult disrupt and how we can solve a challenge. I'm like, this is ideal state of where I see it. And it's just updating memory. So it's neat, but you have to make sure you're doing it the right way. But when I sit there and I'm like, no, say it like this or say it like in a pessimistic tone, it's just kind of you get out of it. Anyhow, we can go down a ChatGPT rabbit hole for a while. But how is as a leader of an organization, how are you prioritizing AI and looking to integrate it into the, potentially integrate it into the platform?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of ways of responding to that because we, as an organization, want to be more efficient and understand how technology can help us do that. And at the end of the day, AI is technology. I don't want to say just technology because of its transformative nature, but it is technology. And there are a number of things that AI and non-AI that can make us better. And they can do that internally in terms of the way we go about our business, but also within our products. Um, I think in general, what I would say in terms of our products is what we first like to do is try to understand what problem we're solving and then go and look at the tools in the bag and decide which ones are best for the purpose. I think with the rapid progress of AI and the tooling and the accessibility of it, it does require us to do some research and development and exploration work to understand the capabilities of these tools so that when we are presented with a problem, we recognize those tools as being suitable for the challenge. So I used to be quite pious and say it's all about the problem, and technology is just a tool, and we'll turn around and use the right tool for the problem. But we do need to keep abreast as technology providers with the fast-moving technology landscape and the developments in AI, so that we can continue to recognize the right tool for the job.
It's not going to fix, like, I think what people don't realize, and maybe you'll have a different opinion here, is it's not a quick fix. It's going to almost like a good complement. I mean, it's like from a sales perspective, right? AI is not going to make a person a great salesperson. It'll make people better and more efficient, but you still have to put in the work behind it.
I think we all wish it would.
Yeah, right. Solve my problems, please. Hit a button.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples on stuff that you guys have done with AI or considerations?
Yeah, so on the equipment finance side, we worked with an AI strategy and product company with equipment finance knowledge called Vamos, and we integrated our platform with them. I was actually hosting a fintech innovator showcase panel at a conference over in Europe, and they won that event. And as part of their run up to the event, they asked if they could integrate it with our platform. Of course, our platform is API first, so the APIs were available to any of them to integrate with, and they were able to demonstrate a simple flow, which is for a lot of organizations, a lot of in-life communication is received via email. So an email comes in, their AI tooling tries to determine the intent of that email, and maybe invoke a couple of APIs to get details back from the system, and then present to a user with the idea that there's always a human in the loop to consider what the available options are most appropriate, and select one of them, and it will automatically then craft an email back to the customer for the human in the loop to then issue back. Now, of course, in theory, you could automate that entirely, but I think it's wise today to have that human in the loop. But all the challenging things, the email comes in, you got to read it, understand what it is, go and gather the information, craft a response back to the customer. That's all done for you. All you got to do is just have a good day and be able to read, and a lot of your work will be done for you.
And just make sure you just proofread some of the stuff. That's it. Simple.
Yeah.
Simple.
But I mean, this technology is not in the way that I just described that implementation. It's not guaranteed to be the same every time. So it's using generative AI, so the responses may not be the same every time. So you do need to take care and make sure that everything's right and proper. And if you do that, it saves you loads of time.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you for discussing that. I'm sure we can talk about AI for hours, even longer.
We could, but I mean, I suppose that's why we all are, because I mean, in that particular case, it was it took out 67% of the time that particular process took. So I mean, that kind of productivity, who wouldn't want that kind of productivity? So it's important to understand where the opportunities are.
Sure. I think of like almost like repeatable things, as you mentioned, kind of like customer service collections. I think that could be some big improvements just to speed up time, because I mean, what people are calling in and they're asking pretty much 3 to 5 questions. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask the senior people on those call desks, can you tell me the different types of calls? And they go, clearly, there's only ever 8 types of calls. Well, brilliant. I mean, we can now determine exactly what to do with it.
What are those 2 responses or 3 responses or 4 responses, those calls? And then, yeah, I mean, I think that's perfect. And then, one of the challenges that I've seen in systems in the past was just like, some of the collections functionality, right? And it's like, if you can automate some of that stuff, by all means, rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have to do it, why do it?
Yep.
The key thing, of course, these systems have to be accessible. And if you can't access them, then you can't
Well, I
run.
mean, so you mentioned, buzzwords there, API first. I mean, that's fantastic. You take a look at a lot of the technology platforms in the US, and it's like API last. I'm not trying to be a smart, but
Yeah.
it's like, there's technology that it's built on. It's just not that open, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I think when we did it, we thought it was a good thing to do. And it was what the technologies industry was saying in terms of delivering a platform that is what's called a Mac architecture. So microservices, API first, cloud native, and an ability to operate headless, that is without a user interface. So you can access the whole system through these APIs. Then we're doing it because that's best practice. But what I didn't realize is just the superpower that API first is, being able to allow our customers to access any part of the system for any need, however they like, is
Sure.
a real enabler for those customers. It empowers them to innovate. And that's the pleasing thing that I've seen with that particular technology.
I don't know what happened. I mean, technology is behind me here. I'm just going to turn off my TV instead of messing around with that. Technology is great when it works. Whatever. Sorry about that. A little unprofessionalism on my side, but we're recording something live, and who knows. But to your point on the API first, I think a lot of these, I think some organizations kind of built it where I think they see it as, oh my God, if it's API, if it's too open, that's going to take away my user count and usability of my system. We can't have that happen. It has to be done natively in my platform. But I think what they don't understand is it can't be like, we go back to the end-to-end conversation from earlier. Someone's going to have a better widget to do something. You can't be the perfect solution for every step of a transaction, and people are just going to get
Yeah,
frustrated.
I think you'll just go out of business fast because one thing is having APIs to access a system, but when you've got accelerating technologies like intelligent automation that can then use that and leverage that in order to get high productivity, then you're going to be last in business, not just API last.
Well, then you're protecting the fort, your core competency, and I'm sure that's a competitive advantage that you guys have when you walk into an office or a boardroom.
Hope so.
The next question I have is from I guess, global economy perspective. Are you seeing any particular regions that are growing faster than others, or I guess kind of from a state of the marketplace, any trends?
Yeah, well, I think as I said before, we're seeing structural growth in all markets, but also everyone would like it to be growing faster. I think what we see is a bit of volatility in the macro economy, and that's led to some credit tightening by the banks in particular. But of course, whenever the banks tighten, then that gives opportunity for the independents. I think interest rates have been high of late. I mean, particularly in the UK, they were high for quite a while, but now they've settled down. So that's good news for the independents in the wholesale funding market. So I think there's huge reasons for optimism. But of course, in every locality, there are issues that you've got to deal with, local regulations. We've got a commissions matter that's vexing us in the UK. There are e-invoicing regulations coming in Europe that are affecting them. So there's lots of different things. There are lots of different things happening in different markets that kind of are, that affect things from time to time. But like the markets themselves, over time, they tend to average out and otherwise keep on moving forwards positively.
Yeah, I think one of the words that we hear in regards to equipment finance here in the States is it's kind of a resilient industry where, you weather some storms, but at the end of the day, it's still very positive outlook. I think we've experienced that a lot in the last couple of years. And then with some of these regulations that are now being passed, it just better helps, I guess, your entrance into the US market too, because people are going to be making more investments in software.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope so. I mean, there's good lobbying groups in the US, Dodd-Frank and a number of other items of legislation, and I think there are a lot of good folks doing a lot of good work to make sure it's all in the best interest of both their customers as well as the equipment finance industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I ask everyone who comes on the program, Steve, to give me a little fun fact about themselves. So, what do you like to do outside of work?
Well, I'm a amateur and poor musician, but playing guitar and piano. But probably the most notable thing I do is I'm a black belt in karate. I'm a 7th degree black belt in karate, and I've been training for over 40 years.
When you were walking me through what level of effort and training that goes through, that's crazy. And you're a world champion too?
Yeah, I recently competed in the World Masters event in Taiwan, and for my age group and weight category, yes, I am World Masters champion.
All right, so you got to help me out there. So, how many age groups and how many weight classes are there?
Well, to be classed as a veteran, you've got to be 35 years plus, and it goes up in 5-year increments.
Well, that's not bad. It's not like there's like a 51-year-old group and a 52-year-old group, at
Yeah,
120, 121.
yeah. No, it was great fun, and it's good to keep testing yourself.
Sure, sure. I mean, it's a lot of discipline, and congratulations. That's rather impressive. So, note to self, people watching this: don't mess with Steve. Okay, just yeah,
If anything, it keeps me calmer, so we're all good.
that's awesome. And I guess my last question I have for you, sir, is why should someone want to do business with Steve, Taplin, and Lendscape?
Um, I think we've got a mission to enable smarter lending, and I think with the rise of AI, and I don't think it's possible to now overstate its importance and how much we need to familiarize ourselves with it and work with it in order to do better for ourselves and our businesses. I think by adopting best practices in technology, then our platform is API first. And what that means is every aspect of it can participate in this movement. And I think that uniquely places us in a position where we can help companies achieve those efficiencies and productivity gains that this technology offers in a way that is just simply not possible with other platforms.
Excellent, sir. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you more. And are you going to be making any of the events this year in the States?
Yeah, so I'll be over in Denver for the
Okay.
it used to be called Ops and Tech. I think it's innovation
Innovation
events.
Lab. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I'll be giving a lightning talk there, and yeah, really looking forward to meeting a lot of folks there. I've been going to the main ELFA event and the NIFA events for a number of years now, so I hope to catch up with a number of folks there.
Well, excellent. Well, I guess I'll see you in like 5 weeks then in Denver. However, it's a much shorter flight for me. I'm not trying to rub that in, but hopefully you can get there direct.
It's all good. With 20 years in sales, I'm used to being on a plane. It's not a bother.
It's fair. It's fair. Me too. However, just across the U.S.,
Yeah,
typically only fly international for vacations.
some of those flights are quite long, depending on where you're going.
Yeah, especially Australia. How far is it from the UK to Australia?
A very, very long way. Best part of a full day to get there. Yeah.
I want to say it wasn't like 18 hours, I think, from San Francisco to there.
Yeah. I'll embarrass myself there. I've done it enough times, but I mean, but it depends
Sorry,
which part.
I know we're way off track here. I remember that flight, and I'm like, what? I've taken 5 naps still. Yeah, it's going.
Yeah, I think some comedians, said that they lost a day, making that journey, and they were
Yeah.
wondering if they could get it in lieu back off their business.
Well, awesome, Steve. I really appreciate your time, sir. Look forward to meeting you in person here in a couple weeks. And congrats on your success to date at Lendscape, and excited to see the future of the organization.
Great. Thanks very much, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.